Good morning, students. So we are discussing about the population. In the previous class, we discussed about sex ratio. So what is the meaning of sex ratio? Sex ratio is the number of females available for 1000 males in the population. So already we discussed women in India has constantly decreasing than the men. So because of that, it is causes discrimination between men and women. Actually, as per medical research, girl children survive much better than boys. Girl children survive much better than boys. But even though the sex ratio is less than the boys because of discrimination between men and women. Okay, there is a discrimination between men and women in all the aspects, in education, in health, nutrition and food also. Women are discriminated against in the most basic needs like nutrition, child care and health, even in education also. When you compare different states in India, Kerala have a positive sex ratio, that is 1040. 1040. In Haryana 870, Punjab 880, Telangana 988, Kerala 1040. When you compare India with other countries, so USA has having 1050 sex ratio. For 1000 men, 1050 women are there in USA. Why? Because it is a developed country and educationally and health point of view they are having much better facilities. So because of that there is a more sex ratio. Clear? Next, literacy rate. What is the meaning of literacy rate? A person aged 7 years and above who can read and write with understanding in any language is treated as literate. At least who can sign is also considered as a literate. Who can read and who can write and who can sign in any language, those people can consider as literate. So at this time, who know about computer, who can operate computer, who can work on internet, those are called as literate person. If not, all are illiterate only. Okay, literacy will show more effect on the socio-economic progress of any country. If the educated people are more, then the country can develop more. So at the time of independence in 1947, only 12% of the population was literate. Previously there was no schools and people are scattered in different places. Most of the people live in the villages, so those were dependent on agriculture. Okay, so after Britishers only this type of schools were introduced in our country. Even after Britishers also, example in Nizam, under where the Nizam was ruling, so it was not encouraged education. So like that in some areas, especially in Rayalaseema, Telangana, okay, those people were not get that much facilities. Next, it was In 2001 it was 65%, and means it grow a little bit, and in 2011 the literacy rate is 74%, and 2011 now the literacy rate is more. Okay, for men 82% and women 65%. So when you compare in 2011 also, men are more literate and women are, when you compare with the men, there is a at least 23%, 27% less than men. Okay, next, working population. So in a age structure, children, working age and old already we discussed. So working population means the group between 15 to 59 age people were called working people or working population. So they might work throughout the year or only for a part of the year. So based on the facilities in the country. Okay, it is depend on the availability of work and development and industries. Okay, so example, people may work in industries, agriculture, okay, and household works like that. So the census of India groups these working people into 4 categories. One is cultivators, second agricultural laborers, next workers in household industries, next other workers. So who are called cultivators already know, who are having a piece of land, okay, and who are engaged in agriculture, or who can supervise and who can do the cultivate lands. Those are called cultivators. Either they are having their own lands or sometimes they take lands from landlords on rent or on lease and they do agriculture. These are also called as cultivators. Okay, agricultural laborers, second category. So the people who work on others' farms as laborers are called agricultural laborers. They work for cash or they expect some kind of goods in return. Okay, so workers in household are industries like small scale industries where the goods produced like BD workers or de-husking the paddy, potters, weavers, repair of footwear, manufacturing of toys, where the matchbox are preparing. So these are called household industries or small scale industries. Okay, other workers, the last category is the other workers. So would be those who are employed in factories or trading, casual labor and all other occupations like doctor, lawyer, teacher. Either they are government teacher or private work employee or government employee comes under these other workers. This is called working population. Okay, next, changing population. So population always change. So that is not constant. Population is always dynamic. So the number of population may be increase or decrease for a particular time. Okay, population are always changing, either it is negative or positive. So population change or size is depend on the 3 processes, on 3 factors. One is births, second one is deaths and migrations. So population size depend on the births, deaths and migration in a particular time or particular decade. Clear? Means difference between the population change or size is the population difference between the previous year or current year. Previous year or current year. Okay? And either last 10 years, difference between last 10 years. It can be expressed in a absolute number or in a percentage. If you say last 10 years back the population is 10 crores, now it is 15 crores. We are saying that absolute number 15 crore, 1 lakh, 2010. So it is, if you say the in number, that is called absolute number. Sometimes we can say in a percentage. So how much percentage changed? So 5% of population size changed, means for 100 5 people increased, for 1000 0.5% of people increased. So you can understand easily if you say in a percentage. Okay, so when you calculate absolute number, we have to added the people, births and deaths. Okay, population before date, before and after. So like that we can find the number, increase in number. Okay, so like that we can calculate. Next, you can see here India's population in 1901 to 2011. One graph is given in million. So 1901 there is a 238 million population is there, and 1911 252, 1921 251. When you observe this graph, bar graph, in 2021 there was a decrease in population growth. So after 2021 the population growth is increased gradually. The population size is increased gradually every year. There is no decrease. Okay, so here some, if the graph is given, sometimes they will give the questions under the graph. We should answer. Sometimes they will ask interrupt to the graph. We have to write our own after observing this, what happened, in which year the population is increased, in which year population is decreased, either it is increasing or decreasing or gradual increasing or any change in the any particular year, for what the change was there. Okay, we have to write. Okay, so here some questions are there. In which year did the population decrease? In which year? In 1921 the population decreased. So from which year onwards is the population continuously increasing? So from 1931 onwards the population gradually increasing. What could be the reasons for the speed with which increase took place after Indian independence? So why the population growth is more after independence, we will discuss in this chapter. So population change in place. How to calculate population change in the place? So number of births plus number of immigrants. Immigrants means migration between the country. So when the people migrate between the country, there is no change in population size of the country. But if any people migrated from one place to another, it will be effect on the population change in a place. Okay, number of births plus number of immigrants minus number of deaths. You have to deduct how many people died plus number of out migrants. If any any person migrated from one place to another place, then the number should be decreased from the total population. Then we can find the population change in a place. So either it is a positive or negative. So if the number is increased, that is means positive. If the number is decreased, that is the meaning of negative size. Okay, if there is no migration, what will happen? So we will consider only birth rate and death rate only to calculate the size of the population in a particular place or particular country. Example, if you take birth rate is in 1992 was 29 for 1000 or we take the for 1029 for 102.9 people birth rate is there in 1992. And what is the death rate in that time? 10%. Means for 1000 here there is a birth rate is 29, death rate is 10, the difference is 19. So for 1000, 19 people are increasing from 1992. Okay, there is no migration. Here we are not considering the migrated people. So only we are calculating the rate of size, change size only based on the birth rate and death rate. The difference between birth rate is 29, death rate is 10, between is 19. So every year, so 19 for 1000, 19 people are increasing. If you calculate for 100, it is 1.9. Okay, so it is easy to understand and calculate also. So sometimes, in order to examine the causes for the growth of Indian population, why it is increasing. So after independence, the death rate is declined and birth rate is increased because of medical facilities, because of education. So before independence, example, if you take the period of 1901, 1921, so there was so many disturbances were there. So because of famines, due to so many death rates was there because of due to famines, epidemics including influenza epidemic of 1918. So that is estimated to have killed 15 million people. So that's why in 1921 the population size is less. Okay, from 1921 onwards. Okay, post independence and after independence also the situation was changed. Okay, so in fact famines declined. Okay, because of famine relief and movement of grain. So at the time we introduced hybrid seeds and fertilizers and pesticides. The yield was more and ration shops also opened to provide food for people under food security. Okay, and active public voice in a democracy, people were united. At the time the epidemics like cholera, plague and some extent of malaria also have been controlled, and there was no polluted water and all those. Okay, and at the same time they have a better sanitation, clean water, nutrition food. Okay, at the time antibiotics were introduced, and they found the different vaccination to control the different diseases, to prevent the different diseases, to provide better health to the people. So because of all these, so death rates were declined, and at the same time the birth rates were increased. So that's why population growth is high from 1921 to present. Okay, next, even now we are having more young people, so they are marrying and they are giving birth to the child. So because of this also the population size is increasing now. Okay, so like this. Next, here see the table, how the population size are increasing or decreasing 1951 to 2011. So total population given here to total population, absolute increase in the decade means 100 years, sorry 10 years, and percentage change in the decade, annual change. When you compare 1951 to 2011, actually the total strength is increasing but the rate is decreasing. Population rate is decreasing, but strength is increasing. In 1951, the total population in million 361, but 2011, the total population is 1210. But when you compare between two decades, the population growth is slowly declining. So here, see this, in 1961, the rate of annual change is 2.16, but in 2011, the annual change is 1.75 only. Slowly declining because of education, because of awareness about the more population, okay, because of standard of living, because of people fertility rate. Once upon a time, the fertility rate was more, there was no medicines, okay. Because of that, the population growth is more. Now the population growth is declining, okay. Next see the fertility rate. So what is the meaning of fertility rate? Total births for women, bearing women. So once upon a time, in every family there was 5 to 10 children were there, but now the children were very less in a family. Even some families having only one child, in another families mostly 2 to 3 only. So now fertility rate is decreased because of medicines, because of all facilities. Okay, next. The third component of population change is migration. So migrants, what is the meaning of migration? Moving people from one place to another for search of jobs, profession, or better facilities for health, for education. Okay, so like that. So migration is the movement of people across regions and territories. These are two types: internal migration, international migration. So internal migration means the migration can be within the country, between the states or places, or within the country is called the internal migration. International migration means between the countries, So internal migration does not affect the size of the population, change of the size of the population, but it influences the distribution of population within the nation. So nowadays what is happening? So most of the people from rural areas migrating to cities and towns. Okay, that's why the in towns people are facing more problems. Slum areas are increasing, population is increasing, and what is that? They are sharing the facilities what were there in that place. That's why they are facing water problem, pollution problem, okay, traffic problems, even stress. Okay, so all these affecting the health of the people also. Okay, so internal migration influence the distribution of population within the nation. Next, population density. Next one is the population density. What is the meaning of population density? Here, if you calculate the people living in a particular area, and per square meter, how many people living in a square kilometer area is called the population density. So India has more population density. The population density in India is more. Okay, it is one of the most densely populated country in the world. So in the ranking, population ranking, we have second rank. Okay, so in 2011, the population density in India is 382 persons per square kilometers. How many are there? 382. So it is vary from place to place, district to district, and state to state. 1002 persons per square kilometers in Bihar, but in 17% per square kilometer in Arunachal Pradesh. And Assam and some other states are having very less population density. So hilly, dissected and rocky nature of the terrain, moderate to low rainfall, snowfall and less fertile soils have influenced the population densities in these areas. These regions are having very less density. Okay, the northern plains like Kerala, South India, example AP, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka are having very high population densities because of the flat plains, fertile soils and abundant rainfall. Okay, so the population density depend on the facilities in a particular area. Okay, if there are good fertile lands, if there are having industries and good facilities for education, so if there is no any problems of because example earthquakes and any if the area doesn't have any border issues, so there the population growth is size is more. Where the people are facing different problems, their population density is less. Clear? So like this, so we can discuss about population in our country. So with this, lesson is completed. So in this, so many important points are there: sex ratio, population density, fertility rate, okay, size, population size, those are more important, and two different graphs are there. So these we may expect in final exam also. So read all those carefully and prepare your notes. Okay, thank you.